Everyone, it's Rod, Shacknews.com. Very, very excited to be here. We're going to be discussing MultiVersus, the game that had me up all night playing it here just a little bit before. Chris White, I so excited to speak with you. We have to talk about the journey that is MultiVersus because we have seen so much about this game, and now people are finally getting ready to interact with it.
Glad to be here. And once again, I'm Chris. I head up the engineering at the studio here, and glad to be talking about the game with you today.
Yeah, so let's just dive right in. What has been the journey, for this game? I mean, I know you've been on it since its inception, but I've been watching it on Twitter. I've been watching the talk and everything grow, and now it's finally here and people are playing it. What has been the journey like for you?
I mean, this has been an incredible labor of love for the whole team. We love these characters. We love the universes they come from. It's just been a dream for all of us to be able to, take these characters and put them in a game that plays as well as it plays, and it's a pleasure for us, and we hope it's a pleasure for the players when they get to see it.
It most certainly has. There's just something this could just be me maybe leaning into the nostalgia, but there's something about playing Bugs Bunny and Superman or Wonder Woman and just interacting with them in a way that we've never really done before. I mean, yes, they've appeared in other games, but they've never crossed paths like this. And so it's so cool to see this done properly. I have to know, what has the design process been? Because I know we want every character to feel innovatively different. Superman is much different than Tom and Jerry, but realistically, if Superman and Tom and Jerry were to ever meet in a dark alley, Tom and Jerry would be in trouble. So how do you make it to where Superman still feels like himself, but he still feels like he can operate in a game like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a tricky line to balance with how they play, because I think our key philosophy is, authenticity is king. And so we want to be as authentic to these characters as possible. But that being said, we always all have to find a way that, it's still a fair play. Like, everybody has to have counterplay. Everybody has to feel like they're balanced and they're engaging. It wouldn't be healthy to the game if Superman just, could crush everybody like he probably would if it were true to the IP. But we need to be authentic to these characters, and so somebody like Tom and Jerry, for example, like, we went really deep into really playing up that whole collateral damage angle to them. So Tom's not really fighting other people, he's trying to hit Jerry, but in the act of trying to hit Jerry, he's hitting other people. And so we really go through these characters and just try and figure out their personalities, their backstories, and say, how do we make a kit around this that fits into the archetype that they're supposed to fit into the game, and go from there. And then just make sure that we're constantly refining, constantly balancing, constantly tuning to make sure that once we've hit that creative and that thematic element, that all of the combat mechanics are still balanced, fun, and engaging.
Yeah, I love that. And to your point, I'm actually glad you brought up Tom and Jerry. I want to actually know, like, where was the decision, to make them kind of fight each other? I mean, they're in the match, but they're so fixated on each other that they're kind of just ignoring everybody, hitting everybody technically by accident. What was the idea behind that? Was it always like them together, or was there a point in time where maybe they might have been separate and we just decided to bring them close?
I think it was fairly early on in the process. It just made sense to make them be one character. And it just worked so well that we never really looked back after trying that out. I mean, Daniel is the lead designer on Tom and Jerry, and sometimes what I've noticed with his work is he just puts something in and it's so cool, and you're just like, okay, we got to go with this. I've seen that on several of the characters he's worked on. We just got to go with it when it's working.
Sometimes if you feel it, you just got to go with the flow. Hey, I love it. So, on the topic of Tom and Jerry, of course, they're fighting together, but this game specifically focuses primarily on the team-based combat. Now, I have a big background in platform fighters, and I've always loved 2v2s, even though the overall community has always felt a weird type of way about it. I've always been in the camp of believing that, 2v2s is the way to go. Leaning into your partner, finding that camaraderie, that synergy. What was it about 2v2s that really made you guys want to move more into that direction?
Well, we felt that it added a whole new element to the strategy layer of the game that hadn't really been dealt with in the past. And so, 2v2 for us, it's more than just a number change. It's not just adding another person. It's actually building it around the cooperative activities that you perform. One of our very first things that we were playing with was Rain Dog, who's our original character, he has a tether mechanic on him where he can put his tether on his ally and then pull his ally back. And this started playing in several new unique ways that we felt was really, really great. One was it allowed your ally to play off stage a lot. So you could, pull off a really risky combo off stage and then Rain Dog could pull you back. And the other way it helped is if your ally was at really high percent, you could take a huge knockback, but before you get knocked out, Rain Dog pulls you back. And these elements of it's just a new style of play that we felt was really important and really new to the genre and kind of something that the genre needed. And so we've kind of gone the route of trying to make sure all of our characters have something there that feels cooperative. Now, we don't want to sacrifice 1v1. We still feel like 1v1 should be an important part of the game. So no character should feel like without its co-op tools, it can't play in 1v1. But we do want all of the characters to feel like they have a new way to express themselves in 2v2 that is really co-op centered and not just, an extra player on the screen.
100%. Now, on the topic of being able to express yourself the way you would like to on the sticks, I know that this game feels really good from a casual standpoint, but I know that something you guys are leaning into really heavily is the competitive play, which is, I just commend you guys for. I think that's so awesome. Because it's very rare that, we get a game that can really focus on both like a pick up and go game, but also if you practice, you might be able to play with some of the best in the world one day. And I've seen recently the post about, you guys showing up to Evo and, the big pop bonus. What are your thoughts on all of that?
We're very excited to be at Evo, and we are, excited beyond Evo to be investing in tournament organizers and community organizers. Kind of our philosophy there is like we really want to work with the community to help them with either whether it be logistics, whether it be trying to organize or trying to figure out rule sets or making sure that we support the features that they need to run good tournaments. Whether people want to run those tournaments with local play or want to run those tournaments online, like we want to give people the options, and we want to feel like the tournament organizers have, the support and the tools to, invest in a community that like we believe is kind of the lifeblood of the longevity of these genres. Yeah, our whole mantra is we want to broaden the audience, but we also want to stay deep. We want to bring new people to platform brawlers who haven't played before, but for those people who, have 20 years in experience, like we want to have something that's compelling to them too, and that we're continuing to invest in that.
Yeah, 100%. When I originally heard about the game, I just thought, wow, anybody could kind of show up in this game. The multiverse is very, very much wide open. Even after watching Space Jam 2, I just couldn't help but to think any of these characters here could literally show up. I, for a second, thought maybe I could show up in the game. That's how wide the multiverse is open here. But, on the topic of characters, Rain Dog, it's very rare that we get to see original IPs, get to throw down with some of the more, well-known and established ones like, Superman and Wonder Woman and Batman. Do you guys have plans for any other, original characters? Because I think that idea is just super awesome.
Yeah, so I think, we definitely want to continue adding characters to the game, obviously, over the long haul. And those characters could come from any multitude of IPs, and some of them could be original. But I think in the short term, we're probably focusing more on sort of, the characters that you would probably expect. But I wouldn't rule out long term that there could be more original characters.
Yeah, I would. I'm not on the team at all, but I think the idea is just so cool. Just to see, original ideas come to life with some of the other ideas, that we're kind of implementing as we move along in the process. So super cool to see. Next question. What is the character choice process like? I know there's Wonder Woman and Batman and Superman, of course, in DC, we call them the Trinity. And then, of course, we have Tom and Jerry, Bugs Bunny. But you guys have been picking characters from so many different parts of the universe for the multiverse. Is there just like a boardroom meeting? Is just, hey, I kind of want this character in, and then you guys just talk about it? How does that work?
Yeah, I think we look at a lot of different factors when deciding on who to pull in next. Some of it is around what does the actual game need in terms of like, are we looking for a new assassin class? Are we looking for a new bruiser class? Do we need a new mage class? Is there a gap in the meta that we're looking for somebody to fill? So we definitely look at the mechanic side of it. We also look at the thematic side of it. So, do we have too many from one IP? Do we have too few from one IP? Do we want to feel, is there a sense of balance that's missing that we need to augment? And then we also just look at audience sentiment. So like we care very, very deeply about what the community is looking for, and who they want to come next, and who they're most advocating for. And if we can kind of find a meeting between all of those different factors that we're looking at that really makes sense that we should go after XYZ for the next character, then that's kind of how we approach it.
Now, on the topic of characters, I have to talk about the trailer. The trailer yesterday, of course, was amazing. It was a cinematic gold. But there's a bit of storytelling in the trailer that I think maybe a lot of people maybe they just weren't, really paying attention to. And I get it, when I see Bugs Bunny and Shaggy and everybody on screen, I'm fixated on that. But as much as I was fixated on that, I'm like, there's some really cool narratives kind of playing out here. And I seen it most notably in the second half of the video where Tasmanian Devil and Harley Quinn are teaming up and they're fighting against Garnet and Jake the dog. And I just thought, oh, this is kind of like an old school, slapstick style comedy, approach to their fight versus some of the newer school, type of comedy where they lean more into the dialogue to be funny, and I just thought that was really awesome. And then of course how the trailer wrapped up with 2 Men of Steel, Superman and the Iron Giant, which of course just sat in a very special place in my millennial heart. Was there like a level of storytelling that you guys went into with that, or was it just kind of like just grab some characters and just see what they can do in this trailer?
Yeah, so I think we tried to have some element of story, but keep it very lightweight, because I think there's a sense of mystery that kind of like the reaction we're looking for is actually the exact reaction that you have, which is like, I think there's something there, and I want to speculate on it, and I want to. I'm hoping something's coming. And we kind of want to like keep some element of narrative there, but not reveal it all at once. And so I think that's kind of exactly what we were looking to do there. And so it's good to see that that's the reaction that you're having. They're like, I think something's coming. I want to know what it is. And we're not ready to talk about what it is, but that's the sentiment we were going for.
Yeah, there was certainly something there when the Iron Giant came into screen, and his first words mirror his last words from his on-screen appearance, which was Superman. And I was like, the child in me is like, this is storytelling 101. I cannot believe I'm seeing this right now. And even more, I can't believe I'm actually be able to play with both of these two characters together one day. I think that is just an amazing thing to see. The game looks beautiful. The game plays beautiful. The game is pulling players from all different types, not even just other platform fighters. I mean, pulling in players and just, spectators from every esport. When it comes to like the competitive based format and where you guys are looking to take it, what is the overall goal there? I know we're at EVO, but are we going to get maybe one day some standalone MultiVersus tournaments? Like, I would love to show up and get hype in the audience there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, as I was kind of talking to earlier, like our goal is to invest in the community and work with the community and see where that takes us. And so we kind of want the local TOs to kind of build organically, and then we support them, and then we kind of work with whatever comes the most out of that, and then ideally build that into whatever shape or form that takes. And we don't want to be overly opinionated about what shape or form that takes, except that we want it to be big and exciting, and we want to support that scene as much as we can. So it's a little bit hard for us to say we want it to look exactly like XYZ, because we want to work with the community to make sure the community has a voice and a say in what that looks like.
Yes, I like that. Just try to keep it as open as possible and make sure that whoever you guys decide to work with, that there is a good level of camaraderie there, which I think is something that's certainly missing in like the competitive community. Sometimes the developers and the people at the top don't quite work as well with some more of like the grassroots organizers, and unfortunately because of that, the games it tends to you hurt your audience at times. But it seems like, for what I've seen, especially in some of the play test footage, you guys are playing with some of my best friends that I grew up with, Void and the Cat. I just thought that was so cool, because it just doesn't get much more grounded than those two gentlemen. They are so awesome. What was that process like hanging out with them and having them on board for this?
I mean, it's definitely exciting to have community members like that starting to engage with us directly. So yeah, it's very exciting when the community is on board, and it's not just devs on a soapbox. talking about, because we obviously love our own game and we're always going to be excited about it, but the truth is in whether the community is excited about it. And so I was very happy to see them come on board and do some videos with us and work with us like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I have to know. I know you've worked on this game since its very inception, but I need to know, who do you play in this game? All right, because I love me some Wonder Woman. Iron Giant is going to be my next character, but who do you play? Because sometimes people think that the devs and the people in charge, they're not really good at the game, but from what I've seen, a lot of you guys are pretty good. So who do you play?
So I actually like to rotate around a lot, and so I think most recently I've been playing Harley quite a bit. But before that, I spent a lot of time playing Batman. I've spent a lot of time on actually most recently so Taz is coming out soon, so I've been playing him a little bit in preparation to make sure I'm ready for a new character. I used to play a lot of Rain Dog, but haven't played him as much recently. But I'm definitely somebody who, I pick somebody and then I play them for like, until I've really run the course, and then I'm like, all right, now it's time to switch. So I rotate around a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. That just shows how great you are at the game. I mean, I'm sure you've had a lot more time to interact with it than some of our favorite players out there. So maybe we can see you in the Evo bracket, maybe, question mark?
I mean, I'm not good enough to be an Evo, so I won't be in that bracket, but yeah.
I hear you on that, man. So, one thing that I really love about these characters is the voice acting. I think that was like the big standout, just call to everybody when they first seen this game get announced, and they've of course seen the trailer last night. Was that like an early on decision to have, voice acting? A lot of platform fighters don't, but this one has definitely carved its own lane, not only just with the way the 2v2 format works, but also with the aesthetic differences that makes this game the game that it is. Was that an early decision to do the voice acting?
Yeah, we started going through the process of writing scripts and doing casting almost in the very earliest days of the game. And it really goes back to the authenticity thing that I was talking about earlier, which is, having Kevin Conroy's voice as Batman adds a certain level of gravitas to Batman in the game, especially if you come from a certain generation of, growing up on Batman the animated series. And so we've always tried to, make sure that we can do the best we can to get the most authentic voice actors that we can. It was quite a big deal for us that we were able to get Maisie Williams to do Arya, and just things like that have just been so important to us as a team, just to do these characters justice.
Yeah, when I seen Matthew Lillard was involved, I just lost my mind. I mean, of course, the voice acting cast is absolutely amazing, but when I seen Matthew, I was like, oh my god. Like, it's Shaggy. Like, it's literally Shaggy from Scooby-Doo is playing Ultra Instinct Shaggy. I have to know whose idea was that. I think it's like the coolest addition in the game. It shows that the developers pay very close attention to how people interact with their intellectual properties online and whatnot. But Ultra Instinct Shaggy, how did that come about?
I mean, that was one of the very first ideas that we had, which is, so we were actually looking at I think there was a change.org petition that had some obscene number of signatures on it to put Shaggy into Mortal Kombat. And so we were like, the community wants this, and we want to be community centered. Like, this should be something that's part of our game design and our product offering is Ultra Instinct Shaggy. So I mean, that was, I think, one of our earliest ideas that went into the game and kind of helps gel up how we think about these characters and how they can also be authentic, but at the same time be what the community is asking for in these characters. And we actually found a clip on YouTube of there's a scene where Shaggy fights a biker gang, and we were able to kind of use that as sort of like the justification for this is why it makes sense for Shaggy. And it's really, I think, one of our earliest ideas that we had.
Yeah, I'm very, very happy that Ultra Instinct Shaggy made it into the game, because it just, when I seen that, I mean, of course, I knew he was in the game, but I just didn't know how he operated. I didn't like, there's no like footage of him, powering up and doing his thing. And when the trailer rolled around and he comes in, he jumps in Batman's arms. I get it. Look, if there's trouble and Batman's around, it's probably best to just let Batman handle it. But when he powered up because his food got knocked out of his hand, I just completely just lost my mind. And then again, like I said, to hear Matthew Lillard voice Shaggy, I think that was just such an awesome addition. Just a almost like video game, just the right seasoning there. That was so cool. If you could pick a character to be added to the game, who would it be and why?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to. I have a lot of ideas here, but I don't want to, perhaps give the wrong impression to the community here. So I think I'm gonna have to say, stay tuned on this one.
Stay tuned. Okay, and now all the characters that have been added so far, even with the additions just from the other day, which one are you most happiest to see? I know there's a lot of characters and they pull from a lot of different universes and have really, probably a warm place in our heart, just looking at nostalgia. But which character are you happiest to see in its form right now?
I would have to go with Batman, because I just love the way he plays, in the way that feels like Batman should play. And he's a character that I have a lot of love for in sort of his extended universe of versions of him. And I think we did a really good job of being authentic to his ethos, and just making him play the way he should play.
Yeah. Now, whose idea was it to team him up with Shaggy in the trailer? Because in my world, now you're a Batman fan and I'm a Batman fan. We know that when Batman's on screen, there's probably no superhero in town that can stop him. All right. Like, he just has a contingency plan on contingency plans on contingency plans for everybody. But then he's also teamed up with Ultra Instinct Shaggy. And I'm looking at, Arya and Bugs Bunny, two very formidable opponents, I have to say. But I was like, how do these guys stand a chance versus Batman and Ultra Instinct Shaggy?
Yeah, I'm actually not too familiar with exactly how we came up with that portion of the script. So, I couldn't really give a whole lot of insight to that, other than it looked cool to me when it happened.
And you know what? The game definitely looks cool, and I'm happy to see these characters crossing paths here the way that they are. I think, just when we first heard about MultiVersus and what this game was going to be, of course, everybody has an expectation on like where this game can land in like the grand scope of the video game universe. But after looking at the trailer, after seeing the voice actings, after seeing just the music, everything, this game has especially just exceeded expectations. Are there any other features that you would like to see added to the game? I know, of course, you said 1v1, there's 2v2, but are there any other maybe types of formats or maybe special that you're excited to maybe see one day?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we're not ready to get into specifics on this, but it's a game that we want to be around for, hopefully decades. And so we will always want to be adding, not just new characters, but possibly rotating game modes, or possibly new features, or new rule sets. The way you think about it, there's the core of the game, which is always going to be there, but ways we can kind of augment it to make sure it's fresh. And we think of these things as palette cleansers, to kind of rotate those things in and out. Like we want to add a lot of unique things to the game that aren't necessarily the core of just the raw 2v2 or raw 1v1 brawling.
Absolutely. And I think just even looking at the 1v1s and the 2v2 format, just seeing like the innovation shine through, even the way the characters talk to each other. I mean, that's a very, in the grand scope of fighting games, that's been something that's always been limited to like Mortal Kombat and like Injustice, like having characters have mid-match or pre-match banter or post-match banter too. Just to see the characters interact, I think is really cool. But, I'm listening to Superman, and if Harley Quinn's on stage, he's saying, what does he say? He says, I see why Batman has such a hard time with you. And I'm like, oh my God, like that's such a cool little piece of just, design innovation there. Like, was that always the goal? Like to have the characters kind of talk in the middle of the match?
Yeah, I think from the moment we started writing those scripts, we made sure that each of those scripts had cross chatter in them. So we have various lines in there that the character will only say if their opponent is a certain character or if their ally is a certain character. And sometimes they're tagged to only happen at certain moments. So you might have a taunting line that only happens after you've immediately got a knockout on your opponent, for example. But we've always wanted there to be that cross chatter because we feel like it makes the game feel more alive and more authentic when it's there.
Right, absolutely. Especially with how much dialogue was in the trailer. It'd be a shame, obviously, to have all that talking there and then none of the characters interact mid-match. Maybe only post and pre. In a game like MultiVersus. I mean, just to see Superman, like I mentioned earlier before, Superman and Iron Giant team up, and he says, "You know what? You're with me." I'm like, oh, that's so cool because that's all the Iron Giant I probably ever wanted. And now he's finally teaming with Superman, and to see Jake and Garnet, two of those later Cartoon Network edition characters, like that 2010 style humor, that 2010 style banter, to see them team up again against some of the older school characters like Harley Quinn. She's been around forever, and of course Tasmanian and Devil. Now, for my last question here, because I know very busy guy, what was working with the voice actors like? I mean, I know you guys have a specific idea where you want characters to go and where you want them to operate with each other. And of course, the voice actors have to come in and kind of be voice actors. I'm sure there's a method to their madness when they're in the booth recording lines. What was that process like?
So I'm probably not the best person to answer that because I am usually not, well, not usually, but I'm not the person that's actually in there giving them notes on their lines. So the way I typically interact with that is somebody will post a video of like, hey, here's a video of one of the actors taking some lines, and then I just watch it excitedly from a distance. But yeah, I've never been in the actual booth with them. So I think there's probably, I don't know if you're going to talk to Katie or not over these days, but she's usually the one that's actually in there with them and probably know the most about that.
No doubt about that. Yeah, I mean, I would love to speak to more of you wonderful friends over here. But yeah, I know, like I said before, you're a very busy person, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Right there, if we absolutely have to. Chris, it's been an absolute honor speaking with you. Hopefully we get to speak again soon, maybe later on, like, after the game is out and, maybe even post Evil, just to kind of maybe talk about where the meta and everything lies and where we're maybe thinking about where it might go in the future.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to chat with you. I'm really happy to get the time to talk about. I mean, we've been working on this for so long, and just to be able to share it with the community is really exciting for us.